We used the money from your mother-in-law's savings for the trip. It'll end up being Ryder's inheritance anyway, so it's no big deal, right? My brother and his wife rushed over right after our mom passed away. But they didn't come to offer any comfort or help. Instead, they came to grab her bank book and take out her savings before I could even file her death certificate with the government. You used mom's money, huh? I asked, trying hard to keep calm. Fallon casually replied, "Yeah, we spent about $20,000 on the trip, LOL. I was furious. The nerve of my brother and his wife to use my mother's money without even asking. For a moment, I could feel my anger rising. But then I remembered something. I started laughing to myself because I knew something they didn't. Fallon looked confused. What's wrong with you? Did the shock of us using the money drive you crazies? I wasn't losing my mind. I was laughing because I couldn't wait to see the look on their faces when they found out the truth. Their carefree days were numbered. My name is Aurora, just an ordinary office worker raised by loving parents. My parents were always kind-hearted and thought more about helping others than themselves. Sometimes people took advantage of their kindness, but I admired them for it. My brother Ryder, though, was nothing like our parents. He was always calculating, thinking only about what was best for him. He never understood why our parents would go out of their way to help others. As he grew older, his attitude towards them worsened. In high school, he demanded more and more money from them, saying things like, "If you can help others, you can give me more allowance." Even though they accepted Ryder's selfish ways, my parents never changed who they were. Their goodness only frustrated him more. When Ryder went to college, he continued to use their kindness. He spent his time partying, eventually failing a year, which caused our parents a lot of worry. Parents should focus on their kids, right? You can't just be kind to strangers and ignore your own family, Ryder would say to justify his actions. I remember overhearing him brag to his friends, "My parents are such pushovers, LOL." After he graduated, Ryder moved out on his own. But even though he had left, he kept coming back to our parents, complaining that he couldn't make ends meet and asking for money. Our parents, always worried about him, kept giving him money whenever he asked. When I started working, I wanted to help our parents, knowing how much they had already done for Ryder. I gave them money regularly, treating it like my contribution to the household. They always told me, "It's your hard-earned money, Aurora. You don't have to do this." But I insisted. This went on for years. Ryder would only come around when he needed something, usually money. But then, one day, he surprised us by inviting the whole family to a restaurant. When we arrived, we saw a beautiful woman sitting next to Ryder. "Dad, Mom, Aurora, this is my girlfriend, Fallon," Ryder introduced her. She gave a small nod. "We're getting married, and we'll be busy planning the wedding. I hope you'll support us." I thought Ryder meant emotional support or help with planning, but I quickly realized he had something else in mind. He wanted our parents to pay for his wedding and help him buy a new house. Knowing how our parents could never say no, he convinced them to cover all the costs. After the wedding and getting their new house, Ryder and Fallon continued asking for money. Fallon got used to the comfortable life and started living even more extravagantly. But their lifestyle didn't last long. Our father's health took a turn for the worse, and he ended up in the hospital. Even with insurance, the medical bills were high. To make sure our parents didn't struggle financially, I suggested to Ryder that we both chip in to help with the expenses. "I've been living here and helping Mom and Dad out. You've gotten so much from them too. This is our time to help them." But Ryder wasn't having it. "Why should I? Dad brought this on himself by not taking care of his health. That's his responsibility, not mine." After that, Ryder stopped visiting altogether. Neither he nor Fallon came to see our father, even once, while he was in the hospital. It was just me and my mom doing everything we could to care for him. But despite our efforts, our father passed away. We informed Ryder and Fallon about Dad's death, hoping they would come for the funeral. They didn't help with the funeral arrangements at all. My brother and his wife only showed up briefly, barely said anything to our relatives, and left as quickly as they could. Our relatives gave them disapproving looks, but it was clear they didn't care. My mother, who had held herself together to act as the chief mourner at the funeral, seemed to lose her spirit afterward. The loss of my father had hit her hard, and she was no longer the strong woman I had known. I tried to reach out to my brother, Ryder. Mom's been feeling really down lately. She'd love to see you. Can you come visit her sometime? Ryder paused for a moment before asking, by the way, what happened to Dad's inheritance? It all went to Mom. That's what they decided when Dad was still alive.
I see, he said.
So Mom has the money now, right? A bad feeling hit me, and I immediately warned him. Ryder, Mom is emotionally fragile right now. Don't even think about asking her for money. She needs your support, not your greed. His response was chilling. If I'm not getting any money, what's the point of visiting her? It's not worth my time. I was stunned. Despite my attempts to convince him to see our mother, Ryder never visited her, not once. He didn't seem to care about her well-being at all. Half a year after our father passed away, our mother died as well. Even though he knew how weak she had become, Ryder showed no concern. When he heard about her death, however, he rushed back to our parents' house. I thought, maybe this time, he would step up and fulfill his responsibilities as the eldest son. Maybe he'd finally act like a decent person during the funeral.
But no.
Just as the funeral started, Ryder and his wife disappeared. I tried calling his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Left with no choice, I took on the role of the chief mourner myself and finished the funeral alone. A few days later, I finally managed to reach my brother. When I called his phone, Fallon answered. Aurora, this is Fallon. Ryder's busy with boarding procedures and can't talk right now. Boarding procedures? Where are you? I asked, confused. We're at JFK Airport. We're leaving the United States in a few hours, LOL. She replied casually. Leaving the country? Are you serious? Where are you going? I asked, shocked. Yeah. We're going on a luxury trip abroad, she said, almost laughing. I couldn't believe they were leaving the country right after our mother's death. But what Fallon said next shocked me even more. We're really grateful to your mom, you know. Thanks to her, we're able to enjoy this amazing trip. I was stunned.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, we used your mother-in-law's savings for this trip. It was going to be Ryder's inheritance anyway, so why not use it now? How did you even get the money? I asked, barely holding back my anger. When we visited her house, we took her bank book and SIL. We knew we wouldn't be able to take the money once the death certificate was submitted, so we hurried to withdraw it, Fallon said nonchalantly. It finally clicked. The real reason they rushed to our mom's house after her death wasn't to mourn. It was to steal her savings before I could officially report her death. So you used Mom's money for your trip, I said, trying hard to stay calm. Yeah, we've already spent about $20,000 on the trip expenses. Good thing Ryder's plan worked out, huh? For a brief moment, I was furious. The audacity of my brother and his wife to take our mother's money without permission was infuriating. But then I remembered something important. They didn't know everything. I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Heh, serves you right, I said under my breath, still laughing. Fallon, confused by my sudden laughter, asked, what's so funny? Did the shock of us using the money make you lose your mind? I composed myself and replied, no, I'm just amused. Ryder is the eldest, so of course, he's entitled to inherit more, right? I'll give up my share so he can have it all. That's what you both wanted from the start, isn't it? Oh wow, you're really understanding, aren't you? Fallon said, sounding pleased. By the way, can you arrange to have all of Mom's mail forwarded to your house? Don't worry, it's a simple task. I'll let Ryder know. She hung up the phone cheerfully, leaving me in disbelief. I didn't hear from my brother again until they returned from their trip. Aurora, Ryder said when he finally called, Fallon told me you're giving up your inheritance. Is that right? Yes, I replied calmly. But more importantly, did you take care of Mom's mail like Fallon asked? Yeah, I took care of it as soon as we got back, Ryder said, sounding confident. You're not going to change your mind later, are you? You won't suddenly say you should have inherited after all? Of course not, I replied calmly. I still think I made the right decision. Well, it's only fair that I, the eldest son, inherit everything, right? Haha, Ryder said, clearly in high spirits, before ending the call. A few weeks later, however, Ryder called me again, but this time his tone was different. He sounded panicked. Aurora, there's a collection notice addressed to Mom in her mail. What's this about? Oh, is it from the bank? I asked, already knowing what was coming. Our parents were always helping people in need. If someone asked to borrow money, they'd even borrow from the bank just to lend it to others, or they'd agree to become guarantors. Over time, their debt grew larger and larger. The debt. Ryder raised his voice. You knew about this, didn't you? Why didn't you say anything? There was no point in telling you, I responded quietly. What are you talking about? You knew about the debt, didn't you? That's why you gave up your inheritance, right? If I had known, I would have given it up too. Ryder yelled, now desperate. That's impossible, I said firmly.
Why?
Why is that impossible? Ryder, you took money from Mom's bank account to go on vacation, didn't you? So what? What does that have to do with giving up the inheritance? He asked, not understanding. It's a big deal. What you did is considered a simple acceptance of the inheritance, I explained. Simple acceptance? What does that even mean? Explain it to me so I can understand, he demanded. I patiently explained that by withdrawing money from our deceased mother's account and using it for personal expenses, it was seen as accepting the inheritance. This meant that he had also accepted the debt that came with it. I've never heard of such a thing, Ryder exclaimed in disbelief. Of course not, I replied. Not many people would think of using a deceased family member's savings for their own luxury trips, so it doesn't come up in everyday conversation. You're just making this up because you want the inheritance for yourself. Ryder accused me. I have a lawyer friend, you know. They'll find out if you're lying. He hung up angrily. Later, though, he called back, but his earlier confidence was gone. Aurora, he said quietly, you were right. I can't give up the inheritance now. It seemed his lawyer had confirmed everything I had told him. Ryder finally realized he had inherited not just my parents' assets, but also their debt. He had always taken money from them, never knowing they were quietly accumulating debt behind the scenes to help others. Ironically, he was now stuck with the consequences. Still, Ryder tried desperately to avoid paying the debt. He and Fallon had been living beyond their means for years, spending freely and never saving much. Now, faced with the reality of their financial situation, they were in trouble. Ryder tried to soften me up. Aurora, we're family. It's just the two of us now. Don't you think we should join forces? We should work together to pay off the debt. Join forces? I asked, raising an eyebrow. What do you mean? I think it's time we show our loyalty to our parents, he said, trying to sound sincere. We should split the debt between us. Let's forget about the inheritance and pay half each. I sighed deeply. His sudden change of heart was too little, too late. Ryder, when Dad was in the hospital, I asked you to help our parents together. But you pushed me away. I was busy back then, he argued. No matter how busy you were, you didn't visit Dad once while he was in the hospital. You didn't support Mom when she was grieving either. Now, you want to talk about loyalty? Don't ever mention that to me again. There was silence on the other end of the phone. I knew Ryder had nothing left to say. Have you ever done anything for someone else, Ryder? I continued. You took advantage of our kind parents, but now there's no one left to help you. Not even family. But if you don't help me, Ryder said, sounding desperate, Fallon and I won't be able to pay off this debt by ourselves. Are you really going to abandon your brothers? When Dad was in the hospital, you abandoned him, saying it was his own fault for not taking care of his health. Now, using Mom's savings was your fault. This is your responsibility, not mine. I regret that, okay? I've changed, Ryder pleaded. Have you? It seems to me you're just desperate to reduce your own debt. Even if you've changed, the people you should apologize to are no longer here. It's too late. I hung up the phone, cutting him off for good. I had no intention of helping him after all the trouble he had caused our parents over the years. Afterward, Ryder and Fallon's carefree life crumbled under the weight of the debt. Their relationship deteriorated quickly, with constant bickering. But moving out would have only cost more money, so they were forced to stay together despite their unhappiness. At first, they tried to pay off the debt little by little from their salaries. But their efforts didn't last long. Neither Ryder nor Fallon could let go of their luxurious lifestyle, and they secretly spent money behind each other's backs. As a result, the debt never decreased, and they blamed each other for their financial misery, further damaging their marriage. Meanwhile, I finally found time to properly mourn our parents. At their funeral, so many people had expressed their gratitude for the kindness my parents had shown them. I realized how many lives they had touched, and it made me feel even prouder of them. It was ironic that my brother, who had never shown any gratitude to our parents, ended up inheriting the debt that resulted from their acts of kindness. Even though they had been burdened with debt, my admiration for our parents only grew. They had never given up on helping others, no matter what. With these thoughts in mind, I continued to visit the family altar every day, paying my respects to the parents who had given so much to the world.